my guest right now on this next segment is Alison Gordon is here. She's the CEO of 48 North Cannabis Company.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Alison, it's been what, 2 weeks since we've seen you?
I don't know, too long.
Yeah, what's new in the world of 48 North Cannabis?
Lots is new. We were actually just out at the facility on Monday, and we are growing some amazing plants out there. It's really exciting, actually. I told you last time that we had brought in genetics from the Netherlands, and those were being phenotyped. So going into the mother room and seeing these amazing plants, I'm really excited for us to have some different genetics than everyone else out there.
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. Always
so
great
what kind
to
of
see
genetics have you got exactly?
Well, we've got 17 cultivars that we brought in from seed from the Netherlands. So it's a lot of different stuff.
Do they have
sit
names?
here and you want me to start naming
well, the
all
names
of them?
are the coolest part about the different strains.
Okay, so there's the green crack.
Whoa, you got green crack? We were just talking to Justin in California. He's got green crack.
We got the Girl Scout cookie.
You got the Girl Scout cookies.
We do.
That's
we
my
have
favorite.
DNA Kosher Kush, although probably not DNA's Kosher Kush, but that is their strain. So we have the Kosher Kush, which is exciting, and a whole bunch more of really great stuff. Yeah, some high CBD. We're just like
okay. This brings me to like a tangential question that doesn't have anything to do with anything really, but I read in I think it was a. I can't remember. It was one of the online cannabis publications had suggested, somebody wrote an article saying all this that you hear about, sativa being more light and poppy as a buzz and indica being more heavy and physical is all complete, utter bullshit. Right. That's not true. They can be anything. One can be the other. One can be, and they can share characteristics. And it's like, for me, I've always noticed that when I want to be functional, I smoke a sativa, and if I don't care about being functional and I'm looking to just relax in the most profound way, an indica better serves that purpose.
I love coming on this show because I feel like a doctor of marijuana and cannabis, and I often wonder, do the other CEOs, are you like Bruce Linton? Do you find that the indica is, but I do actually know this stuff because I am part of the cannabis culture and I am a cannabis user, and I will say that I think in any plant-based medicine, people will react differently. So it is the case that from all the qualitative reporting, people find sativa is makes you less sleepy, less heavy, but of course any individual could have a different reaction to a sativa or an indica, but it is the case, through reporting. But that's the exciting thing about where we are now in Canada, and as the US sort of evolves, is we're actually going to have research and data that will back up all of that we know. And really, I think what would be interesting, and next time I come back, I'll bring this with me, we use a group called Strain Print. They're awesome, and they are tracking what people are using, how they feel, how it's helping with stuff. So they're accumulating a ton of data on that. So let's take a look and find out if it's the case. But yes, most people do report that a sativa doesn't make them feel as tired or heavy, and the indica is more that traditional stoner thing. Yeah. So the and sativas, by the way, are more rare in terms. At least I find in the LP system in Canada, you're not finding as many pure sativas. Right. And so the question of the person who wrote this piece, did someone say this was a sativa and it was more of a hybrid? Like where did they come up with this? Right. Are they scientists?
Well, that's just it. There are a lot of people throwing around scientific information who...
like myself.
Well, it's interesting. As we develop an understanding, we all move forward into more understanding of cannabis and its effects at a personal health level, at a metaphysical level, collectively as a society. But the interesting thing that I'm observing everywhere I go is everybody has their own version of what cannabis is and how it evolved.
Because it's interesting, there are people that I really respect and are friends like Mark Richardson or Hilary Black who've been working with the plant in patients for 25, 30 years. But it wasn't as though people were recording data and names and everything was underground. So you can have those conversations, and I do, because I believe truly to run a cannabis company, I believe for me, I couldn't run a company that I don't understand the product myself or understand how people engage with it. So in that same way, I wouldn't set out to try and, you know, make a car if I know nothing about cars. So for me, I have these conversations. So all of this information is out there. It's just not being recorded. It hasn't been typically reported. So it's exciting as the world is completely changing and we're alive for this to see that people are actually going to keep track of it.
I know. One of the things that I see, or I keep hearing from different CEOs, is that now you're going to be able to actually sort of clinically measure the effects of different dosages and different strains on yourself and arrive at a, you know, a sort of perfect combination for your own personal sort of composition.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time, that I've seen all sorts of technology where, you know, the vape is connected to your phone and you can sort of set it at exactly the dose you want, and then you can record how you felt, so you can adjust it and you can keep working with it till you get where you want to get to. So, I mean, I'd love to see how that's all going to play out, because really, and we've discussed this before as well, when you're buying cannabis or certain strains and using it, if someone else grew it, there would be different, or it's grown under different conditions, it would all be different. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to be as precise as people think it will. But again, that's not, I'm not a science person. I think at the molecular level, you could do that. But I guess with flower, it would be hard to get it so precise.
Yeah. So I just spent a week in California, in Los Angeles, and then in Oakland and San Francisco. We went and visited the MedMen store, and among the many goodies I bought there was I bought chocolate-covered blueberries.
Yes, the Terra.
They were 2.5 grams of THC.
They were one of the original in California back when we were running that dispensary. That was one of the first brands that kind of came out there.
So just for clarity's sake, Alison owned...
Oh, I worked for the company
Oh, you worked for the company that owned, I'm sorry. The Santa Monica location of MedMen that we were just at last week. And in
West Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the one we visited.
Yeah.
And that's where I bought substantially all of my goodies. The other location we went and visited was Jetty Extracts. And
right.
They gave us like care packages to go with, because we were there with all these cameras shooting. It's a different world
in California, right?
It is so, like, I've never received a care package of all the site visits I've ever done in Canada, because obviously CEOs are not going to risk their license just to give me a care package, and we've never really asked for one. We always jokingly do, but I don't think they've ever taken us seriously. So so we never know. So I'm looking forward to October 17th.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know about care packages then. But yeah, California is just to see it evolve. So that dispensary we purchased in 2014. This is not only prior to California going rec, but prior to them even changing some of the regulations around you being able to not be a not-for-profit. So you still had to be a not-for-profit. This store had been shut down for sort of tax reasons, and it was really one of 4 legally permitted in all of Los Angeles, because West Hollywood was the only municipality within sort of the greater Los Angeles area that had given out permits. So we had purchased this dispensary. I don't even want to say for what price, because it could make you cry thinking what it's valued at now. But the vision was a bit early, because for investors it was like, what? It's a not-for-profit, and you know, how does that work? And it was like, no. California is 49% of the North American cannabis market. This is one of 4 legally permitted. California
is 49% of the North American cannabis market.
Yes.
Wow. Now, are you saying that on the consumption side, on the demand side?
Like from an economic standpoint, the selling, the buying, all of that, it makes up 49% of the market.
Wow, so a pretty important market.
It's a hugely important market, and that store in particular, like that experience for me was fundamental to what I'm doing at 48 North, because when we first bought it, it was 4,000 square feet. As you saw, it's huge. And everything in there was made by the bud tenders when we first purchased it. So I think I told you this last time. Lemon squares just wrapped in cellophane with a sticker.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, this is, whatever. Then very quickly, sort of the Terra blueberries and Kiva and Venice Beach Cookie Company, this stuff started to come in, and it was packaged and it was branded, and it was like, okay, this is a consumer packaged goods industry. And the sales wound up going from something like 30% of sales being extracted products to upwards of 50% being the edibles, the vapes, the topicals, the pet stuff. And so that's where very early, because this was like 2014, 2015, I was like, this is all going to be about branding and packaging and products. And that in Canada, everyone thought I was mental because it was still medical, it was still just flower and the limited extract and no marketing and branding. So now I sort of smile as everyone's like, we're a CPG company, which is great because it is a packaged goods industry.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have to supply the OCS and everything must be very,
Yeah, has to look good.
Packaged up.
Has
well,
to look pro.
I don't know if it will, it will look professional. I don't know how beautiful it will all look.
Well, that's interesting. So the jetty extracts place and all of the extracts. So it's interesting because I'm really following this idea that everything's going to extracts and edibles and away from just premium dried flower.
Yeah.
Which that's probably true because smoking has other issues associated with it. It makes your throat hurt, it makes you cough like crazy.
And young people, in North America, I don't know the statistics, but aren't cigarette smokers, so it isn't that natural instinct to go towards smoking, and the ease of use of a disposable vape and its discretion, it's discreet, I think all of that sort of convenience for millennials is big.
Yeah. The one thing that I've noticed, however, is that they're able to deconstruct cannabis into its constituent parts. But then when they reconstitute it, I have yet to encounter any vape product that comes anywhere near a properly distilled sort of, like we used to call it green crack, we used to call it honey oil, which is essentially when you take all of the trichomes that have stuck to you while you're trimming, and
like a keef.
And you dissolve it in alcohol and let the alcohol evaporate slowly and at room temperature. You end up with a whole oil, an oil that contains all of the terpenes that the flower expresses. And so the flavor experience of that is one of the aspects that I am watching disappear in this whole evolution and going, no! And it's like, is that going to keep happening? Or is somebody going to go, wait a sec, you can have these cannabinoids as ingredients if you deconstruct them and reconstruct them. But there is always going to be a market. I think there's going to become a market for a real connoisseur level.
I hope so. I mean, like yourself, I really hope so. Sometimes I think about the fact that we all eat apples that don't really taste like apples, right? And nobody really talks about it. And you just buy those apples and you don't even give a second thought to the fact well, when I was a kid, these tasted like apples, not, genetically modified things that can sit nicely on a shelf. But we don't talk about it and we still buy the apples. But yeah, I hope
I don't buy the apples.
You don't buy, you're organic. I forgot you're organic.
I think, so organic.
For what you're speaking to in Canada on the extraction side with the CO2 or the ethanol, so you're going to lose the terpenes through the methods that are allowed here. When you talked about, I don't know if you did it or friends did it with the alcohol, can you imagine trying to do that on a mass scale? That's, it's not a mass production. I do it on a Pyrex
dish on my stove with, after 15
It's not
plants.
as efficient as a massive CO2 machine. So yeah, I think that we're going to have to see what I think will have to happen is on the distribution and retail side, an acknowledgement that these things are something the consumer wants. Because right now, and I won't highlight any particular province, but when you're saying, okay, we're going to buy, well, we're just talking about flower right now, but the outdoor or the greenhouse at $2.50 a gram and sort of mid-quality indoor at $4 a gram and the top at $5 a gram. Well, you're not really leaving room for a craft or cannabis grower to be able to do these intricate things. So in many ways it has to come from that end to allow us to be, as licensed producers, to be able to invest the time and money and not just sort of do what's quickest and cheapest. But that's not what seems to be on the horizon right now.
Which sort of brings me to a question for you, a bit of a convoluted one. But so if at least a large part of the impetus for legalized recreational cannabis was to defeat the other illicit sources that funded criminal enterprises, for want of a better word, then wouldn't you agree then that these limitations as to how we are able to create product and deliver it to the regulated market are going to be the make or break point at which the illicit enterprises continue or fail? Because if I can't get the super premium whole oil that I've grown up loving.
Then you'll get it on the black market.
I know where to get
never,
it.
You would never.
No, I never.
Well, I'm going to give you the diplomatic answer, which is, of course, if consumers have a choice, price would impact it, and also choice of how they want to consume. If they can't get it in the legal market and they've already been getting it in this robust black market, it's logical to think they'll go there. But the diplomatic side, which is real, is that it's not easy for the federal government to legalize this entire, cannabis world. Really, I mean, I think we could be sitting here if the federal government had said, no problem, we're October 17th, make whatever you want, however you want, food, this, that, and the other. You and I would be sitting here going, is it going to be safe? Who's checking if the food is right? Like, nobody's going to love that either. So how do you start melding these departments together? I mean, 48 North, we're very interested in the cosmetic and skincare side because of our focus on the female market, and that's such a huge thing in the US, and Vogue magazine, Vanity Fair, New York Times, all saying CBD is the next big skincare ingredient, and you can see that. It's amazing. And so for us, we're trying to figure out, and we're formulating, and that's awesome, and coming up with very unique formulations on the skincare side, but we don't yet understand when that will be in the Canadian market. What will that look like? How will that interact with other regulatory bodies that are, currently part of the cosmetic world? So you have to imagine that over at the federal government and Health Canada, they're like trying to figure it all out. So just fingers crossed that we can get there.
As a CEO who interacts with Health Canada officials on a regular basis, do you get the sense from them that they are open to finding a way to broaden the product sort of profile of what's available in Canada and what's not as soon as rationally expected to be possible?
Yes, I actually do. I mean, look, I'm on the board of the Industry Association, so we meet with the Office of Medical Cannabis, and in terms of that department, everybody is really also looking forward to expanding the program, but understandably they have a huge monumental task there in terms of all the applicants that they're still processing, all the expansion, all the inspectors, all the compliance. Like, I can't even begin to imagine. And yes, they've actually been amazing, and they really want to serve us and help as much as they can. But as you can imagine, they're growing to meet the demand. But now you have, let's say, 45 new government employees that are looking at massive applications and expansions, and people who are trying to figure out what products they can create and things they could do. But yes, in terms of what you're asking me, I don't get the sense of forget it. Like, for a few years, I've been talking to them about this idea, exactly what you just said, patients to wipe out the black market, and patients also want a variety of options beyond just smoking and some of the tinctures, and they know that, but there's also regulation. It's
right. Is there a sense, do you get the sense that the Office of Medical Health
Cannabis
is looking for more clinical data to be available before they license products like topical creams? Or
I have not heard that.
Okay.
They might, I guess, want to. I don't know about topicals. I mean, I think probably there's more investigation on the edible side, but I think topicals, again, it's more, especially if it's non-psychoactive, it would be like less, it has to meet all the regulatory, whatever that will be when that happens. But I don't think the topical is as much probably a concern. Nobody's told me that. I mean, it depends. Like, if you're talking about a patch that has an activated THC, or if you're talking about a CBD cream that can help with your arthritis.
Sure.
And my hope, of course, is that CBD will be classified ultimately as a natural health product.
Right. It's interesting to me that CBD with no psychotropic effects is nonetheless still not broadly available in Canada.
Legally,
yes. Right. Exactly. But yet it's just it's becoming such a well-known, at least at this stage, homeopathic remedy. That I can't believe that it's things like legislation that are holding up the advancement of our understanding of this. anyways, we're going to have lots of opportunity to talk about that. Alison,
do you use the CBD creams?
I haven't. Nobody's given me any yet.
I don't have any.
Oh, you don't have any? Come on, help a brother out here.
You were in California.
I know. You know what? I was
I mean, I don't know if you have any pain or bruising or shoulder soreness, but there are some amazing products out there in California, legal, and you can try them when you're there.
Yeah, I was in kid in a candy store mode when I was there, and believe me, topicals were not on my mind.
Is this your first time in California?
No, but it was my first time in California since cannabis was so widely available.
Right.
So, you know,
okay, so since legalization.
Yeah.
So you must have been really
Oh yeah, no,
oh
I was
God.
like, especially since you're going down there all like, yeah, I'm from Canada, the first G7 country to have federal legislation.
Right.
And then you walk into one of those stores and you're just like, yeah, I'm from Canada, and it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I mean, yes, we've got federal legislation, but it's laughable the range of products that are going to be available, and the sort of, you know, this sort of provincial approach to things, where, you know, the Nova Scotia Liquor Board announced that they were going to be the first province to allow cannabis and liquor products combined into one.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, we're just going rogue nation here within the country.
It's interesting.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then you look at California, where it's just like, first make it, and then we'll let you know if there's a reason to make it illegal. But it's like, basically the whole approach there is opposite. It's like, you go ahead and make whatever you want. If there's a reason for us to outlaw it, we'll do that after the fact. I mean, it's not like you got to submit everything to this government approval process.
Right.
And they decide that, okay, now you can sell it to people.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's they all have their challenges for sure. I mean, California, it's just this massive market. People have grown for generations. Now you're trying to say, okay, you need to be licensed, you need to do it this way, you can't do it that way. Like, I've always felt like California just scared me in terms of how would they possibly get a handle on that.
Yeah.
Like, but it's there. It's exciting.
Check out one of these other videos here, or subscribe to our channel, or better yet, visit our new website at MidasLetter.com. Thanks for watching.